So mine is just to welcome everybody to this webinar. It is one of the many series that we are going to be having in the course of the year. And let me just say that it is very, very nice to have this community once again. It is like remembering 2012 when we met in Dar es Salaam. And it is very, very nice to have everybody on board. So mine is quite easy, just welcoming everybody. I'm going to be giving a context, setting the scene for this webinar by just giving a few opening remarks. And I think it is good to think about Africa in general, because this is the reason why we are here. We are here because of Africa, but we want to think about the unique context that defines Africa. The cultures, the history, many diversities we find within the continent, which perhaps we could look at them in terms of opportunities on one hand, but also we could look at them in terms of challenges. Challenges in terms of complicating how we would understand the linkages and interactions between the national systems of innovation and also the actors who are involved. But of course, the opportunities in terms of what we can research on and what we can inform as a community. But also in terms of innovation, I think we can all agree that Africa is a hub for innovation. We do have some examples in digital technological innovation. We do have examples of how the continent has been able to combat the COVID pandemic. There are numerous innovations that have been developed within Africa, which perhaps we can even call frugal innovations. But I think more needs to be done, in terms of generating knowledge that we need to inform, our research agenda, to inform the decisions that we have to make in the policy arena in order to enhance poverty reduction as well as inclusive development. But I think you may agree with me, we do have many challenges for us to be able to do this. And one of the challenges has to do with capacity to undertake research on innovation and development, and of course to inform the role of learning, innovation, and competence building systems in order to achieve structural transformation of the African economies. And I think this is where AfricaLics, and of course the bigger network, GlobalX, is trying to address that particular gap, particularly AfricaLics, which is trying to build research capacity in this particular area. Going back to where we started, I think we have been talking about this since we started the conversation with Bar today. It has been a journey from 2012, but that particular journey started even before 2012. I think we are going to hear a bit about that from Bal. But I would want to say that there have been very great minds, behind this particular journey. Some of them, when they met in Dar es Salaam, they agreed to become the interim scientific board. We are going to hear about that in a minute. But we do appreciate those who took the initiative from the beginning. But I must say that there are some others who have been playing very significant roles behind the scene. Some we may never even get to know them. We want to appreciate them and what they have done to date. And we are very privileged and happy to have three of the key speakers who are behind those great minds. We do have Bar, as the few people who started with us at the beginning, they saw that he has broken his heart, but he actually has agreed to join us today. So we are really appreciative, Bar, for your commitment to this network, for your commitment to Africa. We want to appreciate, of course, Mamo. Mamo has been in the journey from the beginning together with other members who are here. Abdukada, you are here. We do have people like Dave Kaplan, people who have been working behind the scene, and we really appreciate. And we do have Bitrina today, who for some of you may be aware, she has been driving this particular ship since its initiation in 2012 as the president, until it was taken over by George Esibi from Ghana. So Bitrina has a wealth of experience in terms of where we are going as a network, where we are going as a continent in terms of innovation and development issues. So they'll be speaking to us today about the field. They'll be speaking to us about this particular field of innovation and development in relation to Africa. Of course, they should be able to reflect on they should be able to reflect on what is happening globally. They should be able to tell us whether the direction we are taking is the right direction. And they should be able probably to tell us where, as a network, as well as the many threads we do have within the network, how they can plug in to be able to shape that particular process and inform it towards what we all agree should be Africa's contribution to Africa's social and economic development. So Bad is actually going to give us a background for the establishment of the network in relation to his vision. He had great ideas when we started, and he has been following what has been happening. So he's going to be telling us more about that. And of course, Bitrina is going to be sharing with us her experience to date. Mamo is going to give a few minutes remarks to whatever Bal and Bitrina are going to be sharing. And then after that, we are going to be opening the discussion to everybody to be able to participate. We would like to ask people to start participating from now. You can use the chat box to be able to pose your question. You could also raise your hand. There is a raise hand bar, I think. And at the end, we are going to have a kind of a conversation. I want to mention that there are people here who may be able to respond to some of the questions. It's not just Bal and Bitrina. We do have a wealth of experience. The board members, AfricaLics scientific board members are here. We may not be able to introduce everybody, but we do know from the list of participants, those who signed up, we are having a very, very rich participation. So we want to go straight now to the next stage where Bal is going to be giving us his presentation. Somebody is going to be guiding him because he cannot use his hands.
It's a great pleasure to get this opportunity to talk about perhaps the most successful child in the Global Lics family. It was a latecomer. We had already regional Lics in Asia, Latin America, and even in China before AfricaLics came, but then it has been growing and become the strongest of the regional Lics. And I think Anne and Bitrina and her colleagues, Rebecca, Margaret, and others have played a fantastic role in raising this late child to become perhaps the biggest brother in the Global Lics family. Yeah, can we get more text? It was AfricaLics was formally established 2012 in Dar es Salaam in March 2012, but it had been in the air for at least 10 years before that. One of the things which happened was that Mamumuchi, who is with us today, he arrived from England to begin with. He had been at Sprue and he came with greetings from Chris Freeman. So we joined forces, and Mamo is very stubborn. So he insisted that we should organize a kind of workshop with participants from Africa, and with some problem, we succeeded in raising some money. I think it was 2001, okay? So, and then after that, we actually had 2 Global Lics conferences in Africa, one in Pretoria, where I think Mamo was involved as well, together with colleagues, Rasigan and others. And then we had a conference in Dakar and Senegal. So in a sense, the ground was prepared. Is it more that? And then we had actually made quite a big application for SIDA in Stockholm. And it was clear to us that SIDA would give first priority to Africa. So this gave us good reasons, because we found it also highly relevant to put the emphasis on this application, and we actually got quite a lot of money for activities aiming specifically at activities in Africa. And as I said, now Africa Lics is the most developed and strongest of the regional Lics. Next, please. The formal beginning of Africa Lics in March 2012 was somewhat improvised. Can we get some more text? I got an invitation from Vitrina to contribute to a seminar which should be on Tanzania's SDI policy. And I answered, I would like to come, but I would then like to get the opportunity to establish Africa Lics as an organization. And the Allbar Secretariat, Rasmus Lema, Mamo and myself, we prepared a note. I come back to that. Then we had a seminar on Tanzania, and we combined it with, I think we called it something like an all-African workshop with participation of lead scholars on innovation and development from all parts of Africa. Next. And then we had, in the evening, we had serious academic discussions in the day, and in the evening, we had some very hectic meetings. I think we had 2 of those. And after some uncertainty, we agreed that Vitrina should be the president and should be Secretary General with acts in Nairobi as the Secretariat. When I introduced Africa Lics proposal, I can get all the text. I said first that I took, this is actually the slide I showed in 2012. Let me get all the text, okay? So I pointed out there was a grant from SIDA with specific aim on Africa. I pointed to the need to build research capacity in Africa with strong links to users, including both policymakers and private sector actors. I said that I thought Africa Lics should be an open network similar to AfricaLics in China, where you have some members in the lead of AfricaLics who do not come from China, but comes from other parts. I proposed that Africa Lics should organize annual conferences and academies. And I also pointed out that already at that time we had planned the Global Lics Conference 2014 to take place in Africa. I said that one aim was to give better access to publications, both as users and producers, which means that you should, as a researcher, have more easy access to what others do, and you should have more easy access to publication. And I also mentioned mentoring schemes. So I said that this was initiating the platform for African thinkers and doing, but in the long run, it should be made sustainable by local support. Next, please. I think I will just give you some excerpts from the background note, which Mamo, Rasmus, and myself wrote on AfricaLics. We said that the objective of building AfricaLics is to consolidate and strengthen the existing research networks and the knowledge base for policy strategies, aiming ultimately at promoting well-being and capability on the basis of science, technology, and innovation. That was the paragraph of purpose, you can say, that we proposed when we came. Next, please. And then we said that the purpose of the initiative is to build a network and to offer a platform where different ideas and actors can meet, and where actors within Africa can take new initiatives together that may or may not involve collaboration with partners outside Africa. And the next one. Then we had a list of no less, I think, 12 bullet points, where we indicated some fields where we thought there was a need for research. One idea was to do research on the role of donor assistance in promoting and shaping innovation activities and systems in Africa. Another one was to look at the impact of overseas investment, and specifically investment coming from China and India. And then we proposed that one should look at innovation in manufacturing and service activities that contribute to the transformation of primary agriculture. The idea to think in terms of something like an agro-industrial complex. We also mentioned that in Africa, natural resources are very important. So the formation of technological capabilities in natural resource sectors needs to be understood. And it's also useful to understand how to channel resources from these factors into innovation capability, and I would also say industrialization. Next, please. We proposed that it could be useful to study innovation in industrial complexes and see how agency and policies could help foster such complexes. We saw a need to define better inclusive development and to develop policy relevant and researchable questions in relation to inclusive development. And we saw also, and I think this is a tension in GlobalX, that we have scholars who are primarily interested in innovation operating directly in relation to poverty, which is doing direct impact on reducing inequality, etc. But on the other hand, we have, and this was the point already by Lal in 2005, that industrialization is, as far as one can see, looking from other parts of the world, a prerequisite for economic development and social development. Research on core technologies such as information technology, biotechnology, energy technologies, and green technologies and application in Africa. So next one. And this is the last 4 items on the list of research issues. How people work and learn in the formal and informal sector, learning systems which include but go beyond formal education. What institutional and organizational settings promote successful combination of indigenous local knowledge with modern scientific knowledge? This is a very interesting and challenging task, not least in Africa. And then there are, of course, in Africa as everywhere else, measurement problems, how to measure competence building and innovation. And here AfricaLics have been faced with particular challenges about gathering statistics and defining metrics, etc. And the last one, how to cope with weak demand for knowledge, including academic knowledge. There is often a tendency to focus on investing more in knowledge, but the problem is then if you have highly educated people and no demand. So you need to look both at the production and the use of knowledge. And this is not truly true for the private sector, and for agriculture and the informal sector. There's a need to understand how to enhance the demand for knowledge. On this basis, we had a discussion in Dar, and when I went back, I found the document summing up what was decided. And one decision was that one should organize seminars in 4 different areas, and some of those appeared in the bullet points I mentioned before. The first one was engineering and design capabilities and economic development. There has been, I think in Africa and many other low and middle income countries, a strong focus on universities in general, but perhaps less so on the need for engineering capabilities. Another issue was building industrial complexes around commodity production, around natural resources. And the third one was mapping and understanding work and learning in the formal and informal sector. And finally, exploiting the economic presence of BRICS countries for development. I do think that we had a gathering afterwards where we invited scholars to come with proposals to establish international teams on these areas, and perhaps later Margrethe can remember which took off. I know that mapping, understanding, work and learning, there was been work on that. And I would think that there's been on some of the others as well. Next one, please. Also in the report from the meeting, which I said, which was quite improvised, took place over 2 evenings. We were very tired, but still we took a lot of good decisions which have actually been realized. We said that we should map research capacity on the African continent at the individual and institutional level. That was done. We should broaden the membership of the interim scientific board, so parts of Africa which were not represented should become so. This has happened. We should organize research training to take place in Kenya and Algeria. This actually took place already the next 2 years, I think. And a training seminar for policymakers. Did we have that in Mozambique, perhaps? But I think we have done things in that. And the 2014 AfricaLics conference took place. And there was further work on fundraising within Africa and applications to other donor organizations. So all of these things, which we decided late evening, very tired, not always agreeing on everything. It still worked out fantastic. So I end by saying congratulations to AfricaLics, and perhaps a little more. Quite soon after the formation of AfricaLics, the local secretariat in Kenya took charge of the coordination. It did take some time before SIDA was quite ready to deliver funding directly, but this has also happened. So it was a very good example of how some stimuli from the outside could help start a process which was took over completely by internal forces in Africa. So, congratulations to Bitrina, Amkingiri, Mamumuchi, and to all African and international scholars who have contributed to build a super strong AfricaLics. And now I should hear the applause, but I can't hear them.
Thank you, Bal. I think the congratulations is going to everybody who has joined today. Yes, we do have a big team of supporters of AfricaLics, and they're here. Most of them are actually here, and of course others are going to be hearing the recording because we are recording. Yes, thank you so much, Abdulkader. You are here. There's a large team of people who are here, and they have been very instrumental in what we have been doing. So without much ado, I think anybody with a question, just keep it. You can post it on the chat so that we can save on time. We go straight to Bitrina to give her a few remarks on the issues that we discussed at the beginning. Bitrina, offer to you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Let me take this opportunity also to very sincerely thank Bal. Bal, congratulations actually goes to you, to the AfricaLics Secretariat and the AfricaLics Board. Without you and the board, we would not have done anything, frankly. So coming back to my topic, when I was asked to present something on innovation and development in Africa, I thought of this is a first webinar. I thought of very basic things that I should be able to present so that there's that are coming. So next slide. Yeah, so those are the 3 things that I thought they are useful to be discussed during this first webinar. I want to talk a bit about I&D research, what it is, importance of I&D for Africa, and basically talk about current status of I&D in Africa, talking about understanding capacity and capabilities, the issues of funding, and a bit about recent trends in conceptual understanding. I want to mention that in relation to what we are doing in Africa and actually the impact. Next. Yes, in terms of what innovation and development, what it really means, I remember we discussed this a bit in last in the AfricaLics conference in Dar es Salaam. maybe if I could just quickly repeat here, it is actually a field of study. It is in the social sciences. It is interdisciplinary, and it involves study of innovation in relation to economics, sociology, political science, and so forth. So sometimes when you read subjects, when people write about this subject, you can hear subjects such as technology, culture, and society, technology and gender, economics of technical change and innovation, political economy of technological innovation. Next. Yeah. So how do you, what does it really mean when you talk about innovation and development? How do you define it? I try to find a definition on the internet, and I think in addition to what we discussed in the Salaam, I came up with that this definition is the study of dynamic interaction of science and technology quantities and business models with social, economic, cultural, and political system in a given society. And actually this definition was informed by a definition I found from just out to 2017 in relation to science, technology, and society. When she says that it combines two strands of work dealing respectively with the nature and practice of science and technology and the relationship between science and technology and society. Next. If you search actually from website, from universities, you will find programs in what I would generally refer to innovation and development. Some it's innovation and development, others innovation studies, others science and technology policy, science and technology policy studies. Science and technology policy is actually my master's program. It was given that name. And the strange thing, it was that it had nothing at all about policy. It's all about technology and economic development. So yeah, so it's just the name, and I really don't know why policy, but I think it made me to really dig into the history of this field and somehow taught myself the policy process. So these programs have a slightly different focus in terms of contents, but a large part and most popular is a study of innovation in relation to business and economic development with a lot of social consequences. So most of it is actually about economics of innovation, of course, related to society, social issues, economic issues, environmental issues. And I try to put a definition of innovation that is derived from that, or rather this definition informed the explanation of the field. And I got this, it's the most recent, it's from Oslo Manual. I think this is something that all of us know. I don't need to kind of talk about it. Next. Yes, so one very important point that I want to stress is that and why I decided to talk about the understanding is this field, in most cases, it is mixed with fields in the natural engineering sciences. This is according to my experience. Once you have keywords, science, technology, innovation, and research, people tend to think of a research in natural and engineering sciences fields. And I'm sure AfricaLics, you must have been receiving proposals that are from that nature. And it is still, I'm still seeing it, and it's still a problem. So why I'm stressing that in our AfricaLics programs, I think it is still very important to have proper definition of what innovation and development is and try to popularize. It helps when to actually help the young entrants in the field, because they have not had opportunity to be well grounded in theory. So if they don't know the background of the field, that is not really very easy to understand things. And I think towards this front about explanation and theoretical background on this, I think this is the reason we are having even PhD academies within AfricaLics. It is still 2 weeks. I don't know whether it has changed, But I think 2 weeks, this is my observation. This is what I'm saying is I think 2 weeks are a bit too little, because if it is a formal training, normally it will, if it's a master's program, sometimes people spend up to 12 months. I think this is standard, just studying those things. And 2 weeks is really, it's something that is really very, it's very intense. So we need to talk up, we need later on to reflect on that. Next. I need to talk, this is something we know, but I think we should just briefly mention how important R&D, I&D research is, because this is actually such research, it produces knowledge that helps in decision making. And I think Bal also mentioned, very important, it produces data, it produces information, it produces knowledge that are extremely important for decision making in development. And I have been reading the history of innovation and development and found that it is actually from the beginning, it's largely connected to policy. Maybe I would say that in other words, this is applied research. And I think this is some of the reason that some programs like the one I studied way back in early 90s, science and technology policy, the reason it was given that name, although the policy was not explicitly taught in that, but I think it is because of this. And of course, it has, like any other field, it has got its own basic knowledge, which is knowledge without immediate use. Things like testing theories and expanding frontiers of knowledge in the area. So I brought this because I remember during the early days, we actually had a very intense debate on this subject. And I don't know why we were having that debate, because from the Bal's presentation, I noted that it was actually even directed from the beginning, but we had this debate. And I remember many people were actually against bringing policy issues. So I don't know where things are today and what is the way forward. So maybe this is some points, something that we need to discuss later. Next. Innovation and development is, as I said, it produces knowledge for decision making. This knowledge is very important for development at any given time, in any nation. But what I'm saying that it is uniquely important for Africa's current situation for three major reasons. Firstly, STI capabilities in Africa are very much underdeveloped. We know this. There are pervasive market and system failures that hamper innovation in these countries more than in more developed countries. And therefore, we require policy. If there are market failures, then we need policy to direct. And this is far important in poor countries such as those in Africa, more than the developed countries. I always, to clarify my point, I always cite the example of university industry linkage, or research to private sector, research to industry. While in developed countries, I am sure some companies, high-tech companies, they are proactively searching for knowledge from universities. Because, yeah, but in our context in Africa, we are still struggling. This is something that we are still struggling with. How do we connect knowledge to use? And actually, one of the subject the Bal has mentioned that we need tackling. How do you connect knowledge to use? So, and it requires actually studies, intensive studies. The third point is actually, if the existing conceptual framework that we are using, what is innovation whatsoever, and all the related concepts, these actually, all, as you know, all theories basically normally come from the evidence. And these, to a large extent, they have come from evidence that was generated from now developed countries. And as we know that innovation is context specific. So in order to be able to use these theories, we need actually to kind of adapt through studying the African situation. And this is why actually innovation research is extremely important for Africa, more than than developed countries, I would say. Next. Okay, I'm moving now to issue of understanding. Now I'm talking about the status now. What is the situation in Africa about all what we've been talked about? Yeah, although I could say that things have improved, when I talk about things have improved, I'm just referring far back when this field was introduced to me, way back in the early 90s. I had my master's between 1991 to 1993. So from there on, I have been interacting and looking. So the understanding of innovation and development, it has improved actually. I think rapidly after the AfricaLics, you know. But in my opinion, I think it's still very poor. We still need to talk about it. Whenever you talk about innovation and development, you still have to say what it is, why is it important. If you look at the priorities, I have been looking at, of course, Tanzanian research priorities, a number of other African countries' priorities. You don't see it featuring, you know, in government priorities. But this is, we all, as researchers, because we are always looking money for research, we all know that this is not even popular among donors. You can basically have, we know of SIDA and IDRC, basically, of course, there are a few others. So this is the kind of understanding. I also want to talk a bit about funding. This is a major thing, really. And I think partly as a result of the above, of understanding what it is, or its role in development, there is very little funding for research in this area. And this is really something that is really bothering me. Because we know when you are talking about capacity and capability building in research, basically it's doing it. Yeah, you need to have money to do research. That is how you build your capabilities. Graduating with your master's in data, in innovation and development, or even your PhD, without continually doing research in that field, it won't help a lot. Next. Okay, when you are talking about capacity and capabilities, the status right now, I think the status have tremendously improved ever since of the launching of AfricaLics. Interested scholars have multiplied manifolds, and debates on innovation and the related policy issues have equally increased. I'm just hoping that it is having some real impact, but we need to kind of a follow-up study. So I am talking about this because I'm looking at the field from the early 90s to now. So I can actually tell, it's not through research, but through my own experience. I remember there was time when I came from a master's, there was really, we look for somebody to talk to about what you have learned, and there is nobody. But now we have plenty, you know. So that is my experience. I think it has improved. But I'm not very sure about quality. We need to talk about this. I remember during the launching of AfricaLics, we even discussed about Africa not featuring African scholars in publication and peer-reviewed journals on innovation and development. I don't know to what extent the situation has improved. Now we have more scholars on that. So I think this is something that we need to kind of look into, and I'm expecting, I know AfricaLics is currently being evaluated, and I think we'll have answers to such questions, and then we can take from there what to do and how to improve the situation next. Okay, this is the fourth thing. I want to talk about this a bit, the development, recent development on conceptual understanding. There are, this thing has really, I've been, especially I want to talk a bit about transformative innovation policy. I'm sure you people know the TIPSI thing and the social innovation. And this concept, I'm worried, and this is, we can discuss later, but I'm a bit worried introducing such concept to our young researchers like in the PhD academies. Why? Because when you look at for instance, transformative innovation policy, this concept, you look at it and it has got, the way I see it, I've read about it, but it has very little connection with how innovation has been studied. You know, there is a very beautiful story from when the innovation was actually discovered, because this is something that the economics actually, I would say, discovered, and it was studied, knowledge improved, and things were added, and this is completely divorced from that story, completely. And what is worrying is actually it has removed the growth variable in the innovation equation. And we know that innovation enabled growth, it is what made the rich countries be rich. So when we are not teaching our young students about this, and I don't know, but these are my views. Social innovation, if you read about social innovation, there are millions understanding of social innovation, but they don't point to each other. You know, you can't even, if somebody say what is not a social innovation, you know, innovation in the way we know in economic terms, it's explained what it is not. So social innovation, we don't know what it is not, so everything goes. And if everything goes, I don't know, when you are putting money, for instance, issues related to policy in terms of social innovation, where do you put money? So I am a bit hesitant, because, you know, as we teach our students, and because they learn, and they also contribute in debate, in policy debates. So it's actually a bit dangerous, because, I mean, policymakers pick things. Next, quickly, way forward, I'm proposing that we need to strengthen the nodes, the institution that house network members, because it is not possible to sustainably build a strong network on weak nodes. For universities, this means establishment of well-defined programs on innovation and development. Of course, AfricaLics has done a very good job in trying to motivate universities to introduce such courses, but still have long way to go. Making funding for research available, because otherwise people who have been trained on innovation can move into other fields and we lose them. And I've personally witnessed this. And important to put Africa to put its own money in innovation and development research. And we have been discussing this, is to introduce, I'm saying that we should take care in introducing the concept of this concept, the two concepts to young scholars with care.
Yeah, thank you so much for that rich presentation. Yeah, I'm sure there are many questions I can see from the chat. There are quite a number of comments coming in, and but just before we go to the discussion, we just need to a few, because time is not on our side. We want to just hear some remarks from Mamo based on the presentations that has been given by Bitrina and Bal. Mamo, a few minutes, comments.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much for asking me. But I really learned a lot from Bal about how AfricaLics was formed. I had forgotten it, but he reminded me. I don't know how he did it. So I really appreciate him for keeping. I think Bal is one of these people. When his age goes up, I think it goes down. When he's 75, he becomes 74. So I can see that. So I think you're doing very well. Keep strong, keep safe, and keep well. And Bitrina also, she did very well, giving us all this and the ID, the innovation development part. What kind of you see? So let me just say a few points. Overall, at the moment we are in the digital time, the digital Internet of Things and blockchain. Many things are explosive technologies happening. More, what I read, I don't know how true it is. more people in Kenya are using mobile phone than Americans. I'm told this. We're reading this kind of thing. Data, I mean, we need to investigate it. What I mean is that the entire boundary, the knowledge boundary, the technology boundary is changing, really dramatically changing. What it means is that it's not agriculture. We have now digital agriculture, digital manufacture. Now it's coming. Digital services are coming. So many things are changing. What it means is that the way people do work, the people who used to do it in different ways before, when they use a digital type, they lose some lose jobs, some create new jobs. So because of this, I think we need to unthink, to rethink, unlearn, to relearn, unengineer, to re-engineer the entire way by which we think about this innovation and development also. And the other challenge we have in the world is that we are now having a health crisis, economic crisis, social crisis, environmental crisis, and even the way we do education. Like the whole year I have been teaching in a webinar, and you'll not believe the assessment, everything, it was continuous. 7 weeks, I couldn't do anything but teach and mark and so on. It's very complicated things are happening. Because now we have these changes, we need to also rethink innovation and development to recontextualize it within these new challenges. What it means is that we cannot just simply validate economic or innovation success or development success measured on commerce, market, profit. Profit for one, loss sociologically another. That kind of thing is happening. So we must now use the gravity burden of the crisis we face should make us now to do the relativity of the speed of light square, new approach to rethink the entire innovation learning strategy. The other key point is that we cannot just use disciplines now. There's in the university where BAL has been, and I was so happy that I joined them in Aalborg University. It's one of the really very good universities. They should rate it well. What did they used to have? Problem-based learning. I was just so fascinated when we used to mark the students. We don't just individually mark them. They were in groups. I was quite fascinated what used to happen. We need problem-based learning, action-based learning, work-integrated learning, project-based. I mean, all these things are necessary. I think if we do that, what it means is even the way we use the disciplines also can change. So what I like us to do is to actually rethink innovation and development to be development itself should be sustainable development. The sustainable part should come, whether you call it social development, whatever, social, whatever. I mean, other people are now thinking even innovation system, instead of using the geography dimension and other dimensions, take the specific dimensions, the integrated, unified dimensions, the kind of unified field theory of Einstein's type of stuff is very important. Einstein said there are two things that are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. Let's remove human stupidity. Let's bring now human intelligence, moral intelligence, intellectual intelligence. I think we should do that. And of all places, Africa needs it. Africa is the richest continent in terms of resources. What don't we have in terms of natural resources? Africa is the one that loses the most huge amount of resources. Patrick Bond, he's from originally from Ireland. He says, when I told him about 50 billion is what Thabo Mbeki said in illicit finance, but he said, no, Mamo, it's over 80 to 90 billion every year goes out of Africa. So what it means is the poorest people in the world are in Africa. The richest continent is Africa. If we have this challenge, how do we use innovation and development? Just the last point I want to say is, one of the good things I've done, I'm happy I came to South Africa. One of the things I've done is I created a course, an advanced course on creativity, innovation, and development. And this course, luckily, I was also a member of the African Entrepreneurship Award. And what did I do? I say to my students, if you don't do venture startups, I don't give you marks. The highest mark, I have 6 assignments. The highest mark I give them is when they create. This year, they created 13 venture startups this year in this difficult time. And even, you know how they raised some of the funds? Can I just tell you how I'm impressed? They even sold their own cars to put seed funding for setting up these ventures. Now I'm struggling very, very, very hard to make sure that they get full support, they get awards, and they really create. They do not just become great people who get certificates, but they are people who create, who are enabled to create jobs and so on, ventures and entrepreneurship, something like that. Real creators, real innovators, not just talkers and not studying and writing papers and certificates. No, we need the job skill, job seeking must change to job creation. And I think the skills mismatch, people who graduate and don't get jobs and people who graduate and create jobs must change. If we do something like that, if we change our mindset, our paradigm shift into linking, I think GlobalX should be very interesting. GlobalX, when it started, the period when everybody was talking about development, neoclassical economics and everything, it went into something else. Now it also needs to take on the new challenge, the coronavirus, many of these health and all these crises simultaneously that are happening to us, the environment, the climate change, all these things. We need to understand it and then change our conceptual frame. And even the way we do knowledge, we imagine the world has to also change. I hope you understand me. I think we need to be change makers, game changers. And I think that's what I like you to do, since you started it with a game changing and so on. And I hope and I just want to finish with, I think the 2 people that I genuinely love are Chris Freeman and Bal. The reason is because on Africa, when I was struggling, some people fight me, but Bal in Denmark, when I said I want to put the book, Putting Africa First, when others were protesting, Bal said, no, Mamo, I support you, don't worry. And you know what Chris Freeman also used to say, Mamo, don't worry, Africa will rise. The Africa, the imperialist builders rejected, Mamo will be the cornerstone of the arch. So I think both of them are good. And I'm happy that Rajesh has started the Chris. We have been discussing on it. And I hope Chris Center also will go. And I hope let's continue. Keeping on. And I hope
thank you, Mamo. Thank you. That was excellent, Mamo. Thank you so much. I think you all agree that his comments and contributions were quite relevant in addressing the issues that Bitrina and Bal have raised. So I think without much ado, we just go straight to the discussion. We open this to the wider audience. We do have a few questions on the chat, but I'm sure there are many more questions which are going to be coming in from the audience. So the floor now is open. I cannot summarize what has been discussed from the first speaker to the last. But of course, there are a few issues that have been raised, issues around the conceptual framing, the need to rethink the recontextualization of these studies in the context of Africa. Mamo has raised quite a number of issues to do with, do we want to rethink the technological revolution that we are seeing which is influencing the way we generate knowledge? So those are some of the issues that I think we need to think about, especially in the context of Africa. Issues of quality of research have been raised. And I think those links to what Mamo has said about what is relevant for Africa in terms of research. We need to think about that and the approach in doing that. Issues of funding, I've seen Rebecca Becky has posted something on funding, which we need to think about, particularly funding that targets this key research area that we are discussing about. And of course, the most important, because it's going to be the take-home a note for everybody is, what are we going to do as a network? What are we going to do as friends of the network, the researchers who are interested in this particular area? So as we wait for people to post their questions and to raise their hands, I would ask Abdulkader to just say a few words because he's here and he has been in the journey. Abdulkader, maybe just 1 minute or two as we wait for everybody to warm up and raise their questions. Abdulkader, over to you.
Thanks, Anne, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Well, yes, I wanted first to pay tribute to Ball for the key role he played in bringing us together around this AfricaLics project. And in effect, we had this idea long before, but Mamo, myself, and other people, but we didn't know how to go about it. Year from year to another, we said we should, and we never got it off. So the ground. So I think that's okay. And now we know the discussions which went on. Thank you very much, because they did this played a great role, bringing methodology, funding, and inspiring everybody. No, I just wanted to, and of course to Anne, to Secretariat, and our President, Petrina. I just want to say, I think AfricaLics made the difference in spite of what people may think, at least in our region. This brings me to also thank all the people who probably work behind the scene. At least when we organized academies, we organized 3 academies in the North Africa. We organized the third AfricaLics conference. And I think all these people and their work should be counted in the rise of AfricaLics. And I definitely could say that awareness of the link between innovation and development is a lot higher in our region, at least from the political discourse, but also the programs and I definitely think also it helps the existing networks, even if it wasn't on a formal basis, but at least in our case, our MacTech network brought inspiration, and we had quite a few people who benefited from the academies, members. And of course, it brought us to question some fundamentals like innovation systems. And for the first time, we started saying, yes, but the original model may not be appropriate. And I remember we started that thinking in Dakar, and Ball could remember when we said we probably should think about alternative ways of going about how innovation systems emerge, and through evolutionary co-evolution, through takeoff. A lot of concepts were brought into this, and thanks to the network also to give us this opportunity. But I agree that with all the themes that were brought by Bentoki and Vitrina, and that yes, we definitely need to have to review many of these concepts and models and frameworks, and the paradigm shift is really is real for when it comes to Africa, and particularly from my own experience. And of course, we have the questions raised by Vitrina, the link with policymakers. I mean, I think in our part in the North, we definitely feel we made some kind of progress. We have a lot more dialogue going on now with policymakers, and you see even with the new ministries of science and technology, Ministry of Knowledge Economy in Algeria now, and a lot of sensitivity to innovation issues, I believe. And I think when I say that, of course, I realized there are a lot of things to be done. What Mamo, first of all, Bitrina said that we have to think some of the concepts, perhaps to review them, and whether we should really teach them as they are to our young students and future researchers. I totally agree with that. And of course, I also agree with all this questioning to some extent, to large extent, of Mamo, because this crisis and the pandemic has given us, I think, a golden opportunity to review, and we've been producing some papers in our network and in our part of Africa, just doing that, trying to question things which we thought were really unquestionable before, and I agree that the money issue is raised because this is the fate. I mean, the future of AfricaLics rests upon our capability and the capacity to raise money, and that brings me to the issue of talking to policymakers. I think this is we definitely have to review our arguments and review our methodology. We are doing it actually. I would say, on a permanent basis, personally, but not me. I think we should think about all the others. But we see that we definitely need to review our arguments, and these are the few points. I will have many more, but time is not fair. Thank you, Anna. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We will always like to hear your comment, but you raise very important issues here. We have discussed these issues in the board, and you have been very passionate about issues of funding and all that. So this is key. But you also raised the need to stimulate demand for knowledge, which I think is one of the issues that Bar raised in the presentation, and which was actually an issue in Dar es Salaam. So thank you so much. I would encourage my colleagues, Becky and Margreta, to respond to some of the comments on the chat. And I've seen you already responding to some of the comments. Just to mention that we are having the next seminar on.
Bol wants to talk.
Yes. Yeah. No, I will let him speak in a minute. Yeah. We are going to be having the next seminar coming next month. So some of the questions you are raising are actually setting the scene for this seminar, which is coming next month. Issues of redefining the concept, I&D concept in the context of Africa. This is going to be the key conversation in the coming webinar. So you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, just keep following us, and some of those issues are going to be addressed. I know Bar is going to be responding, but just Susan Cossen, I know we do have a wide of expertise here. Would you please say something about the conceptual issues around inclusive innovation, social innovation, just for us to get to a few of what you think about that particular concept? Susan Cossen?
Sure. It's enormously important in Africa, as it is in Latin America, because these are two continents with very deep inequality. And one of the beautiful things about African innovation studies is there has been leadership on measuring innovation in the informal sector, which is a place that's where a lot of key knowledge resides. So I think in the spirit of Mama's comments about Africa being a place that's really open to creativity, there's just a lot of potential there that we're already seeing within the field. So I congratulate you all on that, and we will continue to talk about that in these seminars.
Yeah, just to mention that for those who are not aware, Susan now is a member of AfricaLics Scientific Board. So she's going to be shaping some of our research agenda. in the coming months, and she's very passionate about the issue of inclusivity, which actually touches on some of the issues which are being raised around grassroots innovation, social innovation, gender issues. So we are going to be developing that research agenda together. Thank you, Susan, that you are a member of this board.
And I'm also passionate about mentoring, which has come up in the chat. So
yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Bar, I know you want to say something. Let me give you this opportunity. We only have 10 minutes, maybe speeding off with 5 minutes because we started a bit late. So Bar, and then we can look at the questions which are on the chat. Over to you, Bar.
No, I think there were several very good points in Bitrina's and Mamo's comments. I just wanted to say that from the very beginning, GlobalX was dominated by kind of innovation scholars with a background in economics. Gradually, it included more and more people with a broader social science background, including people involved in what you call STS studies. And I mean, as I see it, we must be very careful to leave room for both. And any attempt using any kind of argument, which actually happened in an article in Research Policy arguing for transformational innovation policy, saying that now time is over for one of those and we should only have the other. I think that would be very destructive for GlobalX in general and for AfricaLics specifically. You need economic development in Africa, and that requires industrialization, understanding the economics of innovation. You also need inclusion, taking into account that a very, very big proportion of people work in the informal sector, etc. So we need to be open and combine different approaches and not try to establish one as the dominant one. Thank you.
I think those are good comments and from Bar, and following up on what has been said. A number of questions have actually been addressed by my colleagues from the Secretariat, Becky and McGregor, and also comments which are coming through from speakers. So maybe just picking one or two questions. I have seen a question from Olivia. She's saying, my observation of the field are disjointed efforts in the field and the advancement of scholarship. What scholars are advancing is not what people are innovating. Perhaps we should involve communities in defining I&D concept. And I think that's an issue which has been touched on. It's going to be elaborated much further and in details in the next webinar, which is coming. But perhaps we may hear somebody respond to this. Susan, would you want to say something about this? Because it's touching on inclusivity.
I don't have much to add at this point, and so I'd prefer to hear from other people. Thank you for asking.
I don't know what to say about this, but then the question to pose back to the participants in how then do we involve the communities in redefining the concept? That's the big question I think we need to be thinking about. Is it in the conducting of research to generate evidence around what is this that is relevant to consider in the definition? At what point should we engage the community? Because defining a concept is one thing, but also hearing what they have to say about it is another thing. So that's really a matter of generating evidence or research. So I don't know whether we could still ponder these questions further, but I think that's something to consider for the network and to consider in the next webinar that is coming. Margreta, I know you may want to contribute to that based on your gender expertise. Back to you.
Thank you, Anne. No, I think the issue about gender, we had a seminar on that, and I hope that the Nigeria Lics or the Nigeria group would actually be able to take this agenda forward, maybe in collaboration with some of us. I think maybe I have two comments to the discussion right now, and it touches also on the question raised by Dr. Petrina about funding issues. There's really a need for many more people to take from the group here to take the initiative to start developing joint research proposals and then look for funding for them in collaboration with each other, and maybe also with some support from the Secretariat. But for AfricaLics to take the next step, there's no way that it will happen if we continue to depend on very few people. There really needs to be, and I'm very pleased to hear about the perceptions, that the awareness in the field has raised. I really think it's important that people are open towards new thinking. And Mamo raised a couple of questions about also looking into the digitalization, which of course is one prime driver right now, both in positives and maybe also sometimes in negative ways. So there are lots of new things that need to be investigated. And it would be great if more people from the community here would take the lead in developing new proposals, including in the field of gender issues. Sorry, I can't.
I think that was good, and I can see more questions are coming. We've seen Professor Ijumba from Kigali actually echoing some of the points which are coming through, especially what Mamo has raised in terms of rethinking what is the role of innovation. And thank you, Professor Juba, for joining. But because of time, and we need to wind up this conversation, not completely, we continue through social media. But for now, we need to wind up because of time. I would want to ask Petrina to just say a few words in response to many of the comments which are coming through because of her presentation. Then I would ask Bar to also say just, parting shot kind of, messages, as well as Mamo, just 2 minutes, and then we are going to conclude. Petrina, over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Two things that I need to clarify is about, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay, the screen is, yeah, I'm saying two things. First is about the new concepts. I did not say that they should not be studied. I'm saying care must be taken. It's true that those concepts are not clear. They are not clearly defined. They have very little connection with the way we know innovation right now. So if you teach somebody 2 weeks, everything, all the theoretical, and you are adding these things, is actually be confusing. So I'm just saying, take care, not to actually refer to those things, including issues of funding, Margreta. Writing proposal and funding, we need money where the money is coming from, the governments and donors. Okay, they need to not researchers writing proposals. We have been writing proposals a lot, but we need to actually raise awareness so that governments are ready. Because you write proposal, if the sources are not ready, it doesn't help. So I'm targeting the sources, the donors and the governments. Thank you.
Bar, parting shot, and then Mamo, parting shot.
Petrina is very ambitious. I mean, she says that a couple of week PhD course is not enough. You need several years. And of course, you can say in some countries like Latin America, there was already more institutions who had developed programs of research and training in this area, while in Africa, there is a need to do what Petrina also said, to strengthen the nodes, to strengthen the strong points in Africa, and trying to build, because AfricaLics will never be able, as a network, to offer half-year training. But it can do, and I think Becky and others have done a fantastic job trying to get some of the universities and helping them to establish such programs. I would give that very, very high priority. That would stabilize the situation, and even perhaps even more important than getting more funding from abroad.
Thank you, Barry. I think you raised more questions than we can handle now. We are just concluding, but we just have to wind up now. Mamo, I know you are coming, but I just want to acknowledge some people who are here. Professor Mwanakobo from Moi University, thank you for joining, and your team. This is where AfricaLics started in Mombasa, 2013. Thank you, thank you. And I've seen your questions on engagement of private sector, in the connecting PhD students to private sector. So of course, generating or stimulating demand for knowledge, that's the issue we are discussing. Mama, you have parting shots, a few parting shots.
I think we need to go for a total knowledge, innovation, learning, and capability building roadmap to create a new cognitive and epistemological reorientation in Africa, from Africa's failures now to enter into innovative Africa. But how do we do that? We can do that also the innovation and development program and course, and the AfricaLics, GlobalLics. They have one very good advantage that other single disciplines don't have. And that is, we can now include the quadruple helices. We should bring in from the informal sector, the communities. We should bring in industry. We should bring in university. We should give policymakers, government. What we could do is we could actually create linkages. When we do our academies, when we do all the trainings we do, or even the conferences, everything, we should bring in now also the interlinkages between the people from the university to people from other parts. So if we link them like that, we integrate, we find new approaches, then I think we can make the whole AfricaLics, GlobalLics, all these networks to actually be problem solvers, from problem creation to problem solving. And since the variety of problems have increased, it would be very good for us to actually be very creative and really be inclusive, and so on. For example, I was once in Canada. I saw people getting PhDs for creating ventures and industries and so on, and the patents they create, the number of patents that they create is what it got them, not the number of the page numbers of they wrote in for a PhD. So we need to find now new creative ways by which we can link each other, and then instead of saying what is the policy learning from ID we do from us, and then expect the government people to take it, let them get involved too. When we have integration, then we have action. So let's be action oriented, work integrated, project integrated, problem solving integrated. That approach is what we need to. We now need to re-innovate innovation and development. Uninnovate to reinnovate, undeveloped to redevelop, uneconomics to economics, unpolitics to economics.
Thank you, Mabo.
An engineer to re-engineer. An entire new world and new imagination is what I want.
Thank you, Mamo.
I need to write a book on this. You need to support me so that I can save this strange world. Thank you.
No, you have trained enough people to be able to support you in that. Thank you so much, Mamo. I think we have eaten into your time. 5 minutes, apologies for that. We started a bit late, but you must agree with me that this was a very rich conversation on issues that are very, very key to all of us and issues that are very key to Africa. So thank you so much for those who are able to join. A big thank you to the speakers and those who provided some backup, thoughts on everything. Really nice. But this actually, it sets the scene for the next webinar on 4th. We are going to circulate the invite so that you can join in. So this is actually going to inform our next webinar. We may not have addressed all your questions, but I'm sure there's something that you are going to take home. Every time when we listen to experts, we always learn something new. So we have learned something new, and I want to say thank you to everybody. I don't know whether you can put your picture so that we can see your faces. And as we close the webinar, please. Can we see people? I think we can see most of you. So thank you so much, and looking forward to a continued conversation on this during the next webinar. Thank you.